Hello, welcome back again. We're continuing to look at sword and buckler this week. Last week we were looking at how to defend with the buckler, so if an attack's coming in, I would be looking at defending with the buckler and returning with the cut in the same time. So obviously if I have two weapons, the whole point of that is to allow me to counter-attack in the same time. And we were looking very much using our wide guards, where we've got the blade further back, and defending and attacking from there. What I want to do is just have a quick look at the equivalent using the narrow guards that we're probably more familiar with if we're doing Zaito. So rather than Kodalanka Stretta, I'm just going to come into my normal Kodalanka Alta here. So if I'm here, I can start looking at what options I have to stab my opponent from here. So he's obviously not going to attack into the shield, so if he was going to attack maybe into above my sword, into this side of my neck here, that cut coming in here, I would deal with by moving the buckler across, as I would do if I was going to attack, but rather than coming over the top with an attack or coming in underneath with an attack for a cut, now what I'm going to do is, as I take that parry, I'm going to thrust my hand forward to deliver a thrust. And what you'll notice is that ends up putting the buckler on top of my hand, which keeps me safe. So very much like an old school way of using buckler, I'm adding extra protection to my hand exactly where his blade is. And actually that's a very big area for him to try and disengage and do anything with, and besides just running through. So the attack comes in, I'm defended, but I'm also killing him with a thrust in the same time. Now trying to do that from back here, trying to get that blade around is going to be awkward, but it's only going to work if I'm on guard here. Equally, I mean, he might do stupid stuff, so if I was up here, he might decide to attack into my hip here, at which point I'm going to take that deflection there, and then straighten out to drive in an imbricata over the top. Yeah? More importantly, if he attacks on this side, let's, so when would he do that? When I have my buckler in a stupid place, probably. So if I was down here, I'm tired, I've let my buckler drop down. If he then does that attack, he can't resist into my neck, again, I'm going to raise my buckler now to catch that, and the thrust is going to come out underneath on that same side, so that I end up, as I call it, putting a hat on top of the my hand there. In fairness, I would actually step, but that might be harder for visibility. So from there, that's my attack. So as he comes in, I can get a clear shot, and my hand is well protected from any potential cut coming down there. So really, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these high line and covers for the majority of my thrusts. Now potentially he could decide to cut under the buckler here. So if I drop down to deflect that, sorry, as that's coming in, if I drop down to deflect that, I now can't stand below that, because all I do there is offering my face. I'm going to have to come over the top. So now where I end up is having the buckler directly underneath my hand, preventing him catching my hand here, and the same can happen on the other side. I mean, no, that's a stupid guard to be in. Let's be here. So now he's got a clear choice here. I'm going to drop that down. I'm actually going to bring that one across. That's an awkward way of doing it. Round. My attack should be here. In fairness, if I'm there, I'm just going to scoop it up into the high attack as I come in. But I'm using the buckler to protect my hand as I'm coming in. That's the main aspect of using these point attacks. And in fairness, I'm not really doing anything new. If my opponent attacks in here, I could always use guard and fast here and drive that in as a counter thrust. All I'm doing is using the buckler to make that a little bit safer for me to do. Yeah? So I can still use these forward guards, but they tend to be used when I'm going to be thrusting. These guards, when they're back, I'm much more likely to use them for delivering a cut. But it was just worth covering those. Next week, what I want to look at is we're going to finish off this series just by having a bit of a look at some of the tactics you can use for actually fighting around a buckler. Now you know how to use a buckler vaguely, we'll look at how you defeat one. And that will bring us to the end of this little set on Manchurino's buckler. So hopefully that's been interesting and makes some kind of sense. You really need to kind of pair it with what we were looking at last week for it to all fill in. And we will catch you next week.